So one of the things I really wanted to cover on the course was how to write an email sequence. And in the end, I decided not to do that because I thought it would just be really complicated to get into. And I thought that considering the main focus of the course was how to write a single email and how to tap into your voice and, discover pain points and talk to your audience in a way that really allows you to build rapport and resonate with them, I thought writing an email sequence would be a little bit too complicated. But the more I thought about this, as we got later into the course, I discovered that actually it's not any more complicated than writing an email. So rather than give you another lesson, I thought I'd put together a bonus training on how to write an email sequence. And the best thing is, this will work with whatever kind of sequence you need to write. If you need a welcome sequence, it will work for that. If you need an upsell sequence, it will work for that. Even for things like if you've got an e-commerce store and you want to write an abandoned cart sequence, it will work for that. And this is the well done moment, because an email sequence is just a series of single emails. And that sounds like a really obvious point. But when you consider that during Sent, I've shown you how to write an email, what to think about, we've looked at the checklist, all the different elements. When you realise that once you can write one email, you can write a sequence, hopefully the complex nature of sequences starts to feel a little more doable, a little more within your reach. So let's take this idea a little bit further, because there's this kind of belief that sequences are really complicated because, one email is one thing, but to write a 5 email welcome sequence, well, now we've got like plates spinning in the air, balls in the air, whatever kind of metaphor you want to use. Now it's a lot more complicated, right? It's something that, I really need to know what I'm doing to write an email sequence. Not just anybody can do that. But when you consider that an email sequence is just a journey of small steps or single emails from where they are now to where you want them to be, it becomes a little bit clearer. Now, as we've seen during Sent, an email, when you get clear on the checklist, when you know who am I talking to? What do I want to tell them? What do I want them to do next? That applies to a single email, but it also applies to a sequence. Where are they now? Who am I talking to? What do I need to tell them? And what do I want them to do next? Can apply to a sequence, not just an email. And for certain things, if you're talking to a warm audience who've been following you for years and you've got a very small offer, say a $7 thing, you might not need a sequence. You might be able to sell that in one email. But if you're going to a cold audience and you've got more of a gap to make up, more questions to answer, if we're following this one email, one message approach, you might need a whole bunch of emails to answer all their questions and get them in a position to do the action that you want them to do. But it's always remembering that there's nothing magical about a sequence. There's nothing complicated. There's nothing out of the bounds of the skills you already have. A sequence is just a bunch of single emails, one after the other. And as I say there, you already know how to write a single email. So whether you're writing 1 or 7, it's this idea of we're starting off with them in one place, mentally, physically, and then moving them to something else. What do we want them to do? And it's this idea, another benefit, focusing on the transformation. If we know where they are and we know what we want them to do, we can spot what's in the middle, the questions we need to answer. So let's have a look at how this would work or could work in practice using something I'm familiar with. So let's use Sent as an example. So imagine I'm running Facebook ads to a cold audience who have no idea who I am, and I'm offering them a freebie that's in my Google Drive of Awesomeness at the moment, the All the Emails freebie. So just in case you're not familiar with that, All the Emails is 61 prompts for emails that people can write. Essentially, it's like a year's worth of emails. They have to write them, but it's just prompts to get them thinking. Takes the effort out of it. So let's say I'm running Facebook ads to that All the Emails freebie, and I think that I can take them from that to buying Sent. 40 quid was the first time I created Sent. So let's say that's what I'm doing. The first thing I need to do is figure out, right, I know where they are. They don't know me. maybe they're a little bit convinced about email marketing, maybe they're curious, they want to do it, but they don't know where to start. That's where they are, that's where they're from. The 2 bit is I want to get them ramped up, convinced that email marketing is the way. It's a great thing to explore. It's going to be worth their time and money to explore this. It's not that hard, and they're ready to make an investment for 40 quid to buy my course to learn how to write an email. So identifying the gaps between the from and the to, I might come up with these kind of questions here. Maybe I need to convince them that email really is all that. Maybe I need to convince them that, yeah, you can do good on Facebook and social media, but maybe I need to, really dial in on saying, email is it. You're building an asset for your business. You create a list and you own that list. You can go anywhere. Maybe another thing is, maybe blasting through a few mental blocks like, email writing, it takes too long, it's too difficult, I've never been much of a writer, those kind of things. Maybe those are the main objections people have when it comes to email. And maybe another one is me. Who the hell am I to teach somebody how to write an email? They've seen me pop up on Facebook. They've seen the word email, clicked on it and thought, well, who the hell is this guy? So before they hand me money, they're going to have to be convinced that I'm the right guy for them, or at least qualified. I'm at least some of an expert and able to teach what I'm hoping to teach. So identify these kind of gaps. So let's just use these kind of 5 things for the moment. Now, there's probably more things I could address. There's probably different things I could talk about, and maybe I could put the writing emails is too hard and emails take me too long together. But this is just an example, just running through how I would work this in my head. These 5 things are the gap between where they are now and where I want them to be. So the first email in the sequence, I might think, right, what's the next logical step for somebody who's just picked up my freebie, who doesn't know anything about me and is a little curious about email? So the first thing is I need to deliver the freebie, the thing they've signed up for. I need to remind them what it is, what it does, what it can do for you, and maybe remind them also about why email is a good choice. Because maybe they're not sold on email, maybe they just saw it and were curious. So maybe now would be the time I could talk about the fact there's no algorithm, about the fact it's an asset you can own. And I probably don't even need to go into massive amounts of detail on this. I just need to sow the seeds that email is worth thinking about. So just a small step from don't know who I am, give them the freebie, remind them that email is a good thing, here's your freebie. And maybe the next thing I want them to do is not even send an email, just read the freebie, spend 5 or 10 minutes and mentally pick out the easiest email they could send to their list. And just imagine it. So go through all the emails document and pick out an easy prompt that they think they could send to their list. I'm not asking them to do it, not asking them to write it up into an email, but just look at it, explore the document, and get the ideas kind of floating around their head. Just so after this first email, they've got it, they're exploring new ideas, and I've reminded them a little bit more about why email is really good. The second email, well, that would be a good one to kind of bust some common email myths. So we're talking about writing is very difficult, email is expensive, you need to be an expert copywriter. If I came up with a whole bunch of myths that people imagine that get in the way of them writing an email, maybe about making mistakes, it's too complicated, all this kind of stuff. If I bust a few of those, that'll make it a bit easier. And tallied with the first email when I've talked about the power of email, now we're starting to fuel the fire for email marketing. Now they're getting revved up about it. Now they can see a little bit of potential. They're probably not the entire way there yet, but that's okay. Because it's not a race to kind of get them from 0 to sold in as few emails as possible. The aim is just to take them from wherever they are to paying customer, where they feel comfortable and assured that you're the right person to help them. So it's not a race. You don't get any prizes for, well, I sold them in 2 emails. Your sequence is 7. Nobody cares. So this would be a good chance to bust some email writing myths and just reduce the gap and fuel the fire for them. And maybe this is the point where I can say, just give them a bit of a pat on the back and say, it's not your fault. And it's easier to get started. Let me show you. And maybe I give them something simple, like a simple habit. So early on in Sent, obviously, I talked about the idea of Don't put pressure on yourself to write an email every single day. Instead, set aside 20 minutes. So maybe there's some variant of that, a lighter version of that. Give them a simple habit they can do right now that's so simple they can do it every single day, and it gives them a kind of a tiny hit of, ooh, this is good, I could do this. I can see a bit of possibility with this. Or maybe just opens the door and shows them that this isn't going to be as hard as they thought. Just sowing that seed. So maybe it's a simple habit that they can just see, and they can start to build the picture for themselves of why this would be really good. So the third email, after I've told them about email marketing, I've busted some myths, I've reminded them about why email marketing is awesome, I've given them some ideas, they've had the freebie, they've thought about which one would be easy to send, I've given them a simple habit. Maybe now's the time to talk about me. Maybe now's the time to try and establish some credibility about who I've worked for, how I've written emails that not only, not just as an email copywriter, but also the emails I've written have landed me clients. Maybe I even talk about the fact that I sold a $40,000 service with one email. Anything to kind of establish credibility, because the thing is, I'm not a master copywriter. It took me a year. In the space of a year, I went from magician to full-time copywriter. So I could use that rather than a kind of disadvantage like, oh, he's not as experienced as the other guys. I could use that as a hook and maybe say, yeah, I'm not the world's best copywriter, but look what I've done in a year. I've learnt this skill. It's a skill, email marketing. Email copywriting is a skill, but it's clearly not you need to put in 10,000 hours to see any kind of return one. I know a way, and I can show you. I took it. This is what I did. So for a low-end course like Sent, which was 40 quid, and it's just a kind of beginner's course on how to write an email that sounds like you, that would probably be enough credibility for that. I don't need to have sold a gazillion things. And as I say at the bottom there, this would be a great time to soften that. Say, I know a way, I can show you how I did it. My results have got this, this, this. But here's the thing. You might be comparing yourself to a guru or the guy on Facebook or whatever, but the thing is, you probably don't need to sell a gazillion widgets. Most of the people who are writing their own emails, they're solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, they're business owners. They just want to sell more stuff. They just want to make their life a little bit easier. They just want to feel more in control. And the previous emails when I talk about the algorithm, and you're building a list, a genuine asset for your business, all this ties together and remind them that this isn't that difficult. You don't need to become the best in the world to have a massive impact on your business. If you up your emailing game and start selling, it will have a great impact on your business. You just need to write a good email, and I can show you how to do that. So once we've gone from talking about me, let's give it back to them. Let's give them a small win. So I might think of a small win, maybe something like, not so much of a sale or anything like that, but let's make a really small win, like a reply. Something that you send an email out to your list and you get a reply in, or 1, 2, 3, 4 replies in. It feels really good. It gives you that kind of dopamine hit, and it's a big one. It's not just like a like on Facebook. When somebody replies to words that you've written in email without any kind of meme or anything like that, it really does deliver a strong hit of dopamine, because it reminds you that you've created something that's somebody's interacted with and it's bonded with them. It's created this kind of rapport. So maybe in the fourth email, I've delivered the freebie. I've told them about email marketing. I've got them looking over the prompts. I've given them a small habit to, start their email writing. I've told them about me and reminded them that they don't need to be an expert at this. So now is a good time to give them a small win. So maybe I share a really simple lesson about calls to action. So I come up with a really easy to respond to call to action. Maybe it's like a hit reply to this email and tell me your favorite cat, depending on the audience. But I create a really simple CTA that's not complicated. Something that's so easy for their subscribers to reply to. And again, this will subtly remind them that even though they're only 4 emails in and they thought they sucked at email, This is a lot easier than they think. And it gives them that dopamine hit, and they're reminded of, oh my God, this is something I can do, and this is something that is really valuable, and I want some more of it. So I'm just building that kind of anticipation for it. So the fifth email might be one where I bust a really popular myth, like, I've nothing to talk about. We've all had that thing where we get a fire in our belly, we write an email, and then we go, I've got nothing else. I've got nothing else. So this would be a really good one to spend some time on and bust it, because after they've got a small hit and they've got a reply and they've written one email or used an idea, they might be thinking, well, what do I do when these ideas run out? Then I'll be left with nothing. So now would be a good chance to give them something that they can rely on to give them ideas. So maybe it's a watered down version of a comedy technique I talked about in Sent. Maybe it's a specific thing that gives them 10 ideas in 10 minutes. So they go through that, they come up with 10 ideas, and they see with their own eyes that they can sit down and come up with 10 ideas for emails whenever they like. It's a quick win. So they're kind of appeased by that. They know they can write a CTA. They've got reactions from stuff. They know this is easier. They know it's about habits. They're convinced that email marketing is the way forward. And now I've just given them 10 ideas. So now they have everything they need. Or maybe not everything they need, but most of it. They can see the way forward for this. They can see this is possible. So now would be a good time to say, this is just one of the ideas I teach in my course Sent, and go from there. Not sell them on it, but just suggest the idea that this is coming up. This is one of the things I offer. If you're interested, hit this button. I'll happily tell you more about it. But a really soft sell, because I've given them a win. So the sixth email, now we're getting to the point where, I've reminded them why email is awesome. I've given them some reasons, why it's better than social media. They've seen the freebie, the prompts. Maybe they've started thinking about emails. They've had, I've given them a decent habit to get started. They've got reactions like calls to action, and, people have been replying to their emails, and I've just shown them how they can generate ideas. Now I can remind them, it probably wasn't as hard as you thought, right? And they'll probably answer yes to that. And now they're probably seeing that there's a bit of a new world opened up to them. So now would be the perfect chance to introduce Sent and talk about the course and say, if you want to know more about this, I can teach you how to make this as easy as possible. And then I could highlight even more benefits that I haven't even got into yet. The idea that email writing is a superpower. Once you know how to write an email, you know how to write social posts or sales pages or ads or press releases. Once you use the techniques in here, it'll translate to everything you do. And the truth is, it'll even translate to things like podcasts and videos and stuff like that, because once you learn the principles of communication, it stays with you. So I could talk about that. I could talk about the fact that, email, the inbox for your email is like the world's perfect algorithm. It's filtered only by time. There's nothing to worry about. You don't have to hesitate. There's no word count. There's no, oh God, it's 6 a.m. I shouldn't really post on Twitter at 6 a.m. I need to do it at 8:13. None of those concerns. You just write an email and send it, and it goes to your audience. And because of that, it gives you more security and control. Not only that, it's less hassle. It's less of a struggle. It's less mental effort. Because with a social post, you have to work out the best time to post it, and I've got to find an image to go with it because the algorithm likes that, and best Facebook posts are between this length and this. None of that. You just write an email, tell them what you need to tell them, and send it. That's it. Security, control, less stress. And then I could say, well, for the next few days, here's a discount code. If you're interested in finding out more about Sent, click on this link. Here's a discount code, and you can have it for 5, 10, whatever pounds off. And that would be a natural progression. That is the last slide. Apologies. That would be a natural progression into the sale. But as you can see, there's nothing here that you haven't already covered in the course. It's just this idea that a single email, you recognize where they are, you figure out what you want to tell them, and then you tell them and, figure out what you want them to do next. Every single one of these emails is based on that thing, on that principle. And it's just figuring out right at the start What do they need to know to get from where they are to where I want them to be? And it doesn't matter whether your email sequence is 7 emails long or 77 emails long. There's no prizes for cramming it into 2 emails. It's whatever journey they need to go on to get the where you need them to go. That is it. So I hope that's kind of demystified the kind of mystery behind writing an email sequence. This works for any email sequence you want to write. It takes the effort out of it. Once you realize that it's one thing per email, you just need to work out what things you need to tell them between where they are and where they need to be. And if you write a sequence that doesn't work, then clearly there's a gap in there, or maybe you're lingering on a point too long. So maybe it's just a thing you can constantly tweak. And you'll find out as you go through that sequence, as people reply and respond and open your emails, you'll be able to see what's working and what isn't. And you'll be able to see where the gaps are. But hopefully that is useful to you. If you've got any questions about this, feel free to shoot me an email. You know my email address. But yeah, that's how to write an email sequence. Hope you found it useful.